Hey, Tad.
Yes, Liz.
Let me tell you about Bionicle.
So Bionicles. Bionicles, those are those really cool robots, really cool Lego robots, right?
No, that's Connects. You're thinking of
Oh,
Connects.
that's right, that's
But
right. Were Bionicles were they those things that you could buy and they had to take them off the shelves because if you ate the magnets, if you ate too many of them, they would like pinch your stomach and cause you to die?
yeah,
That was
that's
that.
it. It was the magnetic ones. You
Okay, cool,
see,
cool.
back in the day when I worked at Lego, we used to have to put little stickers that said, "Be careful because these have magnets in them, and if your kids eat them, they'll get stuck in your small intestine." And I actually had like 20, like a giant 20-foot roll of that I just kept at home, and I started putting it on everything, like my computer and my Wii and shit, just for shits and giggles.
This computer has magnets.
This Wiimote has magnets. Be careful about throwing it at the TV.
They probably do. But anyway, so Bionicle was 2001. 2001 was when they started, I think.
Yeah, it was about like early 2000s, 2001, 2002, that era. That was the era that Bionicle came out.
It was kind of like a like action. It was a kind of a blend between Legos and action figure type stuff. I know it caught my eye because I'd see the commercials on TV and they were like almost like a cartoon thing where you would follow. It gave you kind of glimpses as to this ongoing storyline among all these characters as they were selling you stuff. And Bionicles came in this super cool looking tube.
You might be thinking about the online game, which everyone fucking loved. It was called the Matanui online game, and that was just revolutionary. It was just a flash game. It was just one of those generic point and click adventure flash games, but it was it had the deepest lore and all the cool things that like you'd click on something and it'd do something, and there'd be the coolest cutscenes, and there'd be these little mini games, and it'd just be so much fun.
All right, so let's
And
where should we start at with Bionicles here?
okay, so back at the in the beginning, let's say around like the late 90s, Lego was having a bit of an issue. You see, they're about to go bankrupt. And, if it weren't for a specific two series of Lego kits, they'd be gone and we wouldn't have Lego right now. Those two kits were Bionicle and Star Wars.
Now I'm a youngin, but didn't Star Wars wasn't Star Wars like an '80s thing?
Yeah, well, you see, around the year 1999, this magical movie came out in theaters called Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace. And
Ah,
that spawned this huge revival of Star Wars. Like freaking fat lazy dudes coming out of the closet, coming out of the basement, their mom's basements, dressing up in Darth Maul and Darth Vader costumes, going to see movies at midnight, being this is never going to end badly, and then getting completely disappointed with the first one. In any case, so Bionicle was really important because they got this licensing deal with Star Wars, but they had to pay half of that revenue to Lucasfilm, to George Lucas's fat little wallet.
whoa, shit! It was half.
It wasn't half. It was like it was probably like a licensing fee of like
They
60%
weren't letting
probably.
them use Star Wars for bargain bin prices. I'm sure.
Yeah, no, they were paying up the ass for that shit. But it was Bionicle that truly made them the money because they were hitting this market before where like they had these cool little transformer like motorcycle dudes that transformed into into robot people, and they throw these little discs and shit, and that was where like the disc throwing mechanic came in for half of the series. But that
So
they
it was
tried with
like
that.
so Lego was trying to get in on that Transformers stuff,
Yeah, it was like the Transformers like action figure toy thing. And
but it
so
didn't
they were
have like
like,
its own unique identity yet. It was just like,
no, no,
hey,
it
here's
was
cool robot.
yeah, it was just here's cool robot with a motorcycle mode and a robot mode, and it throws this disc, cool throwing action. And so they were like, huh, what if we made like a story to this? Because like Star Wars was selling like hotcakes, because like everybody knew the story, everyone knew Star Wars long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So they were like, we should make a story attached to this kit. That way, people are more invested in the kits, and they have not just like they can play their own story, but they can play a part of the story, or they could play like reenact the story, that kind of stuff.
Now here's a question I have about the story there. Was there like a single dude that was leading the Bionicles charge for the story wise thing, or was it in like a group of people who were just in the Bionicle division working hand in hand to make it? Was there like a lore master, I guess?
I think there was like one or two like lore masters, but for the most part, it was like there was some guy making the story and there was like some writers and stuff. But for the most part, they just had the master builders who just built the kits, made everything work for the most part, and then they made the hits before they made the story. Like they had like original idea of like, okay, there's 6 of them. There's the blue one, there's the green one, there's the white one, there's the brown one, there's the black one, and there's the red one. And they each have different elemental powers. And so from there they were like, okay, so they have different tribes, and they just like grew that idea out. And then from there they added like, okay, well, let's say that they're fighting this guy and they're doing this and this, and then that's where the whole like, let's get a writer to do this. And they hired some writers to actually like storyline I remember reading something that like they were storylining the entire story for like the first series, and they were like, we have so much we can work with. So they just kept growing it, and it became this huge phenomena.
So tell me a little bit more about the first sets, because I believe I did have some of the first sets of Bionicles, and I got them in a way that I still feel kind of bad about. And I mentioned this, I think, long ago in the last episode you were in, where my mom's friend always had a yard sale going on during the summer. And she's like, yeah, just pick out any one thing that you want. And so I went and I like chose like the only thing that was expensive, and that was the Bionicle toy for like $18. And I was like, man, sigh. Man, this Bionicle looks really cool. You know, he's white. He's got like all this cool stuff. Sigh. And then just like did that until I got it, and it was the fucking coolest. My little brother had the brown one.
The brown one was one of my favorites. Him, the girl, the blue one, and the green one were like the cool ones. But the white one wasn't everyone that was like, he was the Sasuke of the group. He was like the yeah, I'll tell you about that later. I'm the loner. I go off on my own.
Did he have a shield or did he have a spear?
He had a shield and a sword. So
Okay.
like as we were going, the first series was they were the original ones. They were on the island of Matanui, which is, if you've seen Moana, you know that like that's like Samoan, like, you know, that kind of talk, because that's what they were doing. They were taking this like Polynesian lore and just copy pasting it all over their stuff.
Which you really don't. It's kind of like how the Elder Scrolls takes a lot of, and I think Hindu is the word. I don't know if Hindu is racist. I hope it's not. But like that's what Elder Scrolls took those concepts that you don't really see in any other kind of media, put it into their game and kind of extrapolated from there. Kind of like how Bionicle took the Polynesian stuff here that you don't. If you're a kid and you're looking at toys in the aisle and you see Matanui or a Toa Mata on there, you're like, whoa, what the fuck's that? That sounds cool. It sticks out.
But nowadays, like in today's society, post Moana society, if you will, now everyone's like, oh, I know Tafiti, I know Motonui, I know these fancy words. So now it's like not as cool, which is why kind of the decline, I'd say, in the current era. But let's go back to the original series. So we had the original 6. There was Toa Tahu, the red. There was Toa Liwa, the green. Toa Pohatu, the brown. Toa Onua, the black. Toa Kopaka, the white. And Toa Gali, the blue one. And each of them had their own elemental powers. There was the red one with fire, the white one with ice. You know, that generic spiel that everyone has. And so they were sent to this island, and at first, when they first like announced this whole thing, they were just like, "Oh, it's mysterious." They're sent in these canisters, which are what the canisters that they were like sold in. These canisters washed up on the shore, and out came all these pieces, and they slowly built themselves together because, you know, they're robots. And from there, they started exploring and finding like, "Oh, I'm in this lava area. Why are these little red dudes trying to kill me? I'm their god." And they're like, "Oh, he's the sacred warrior, the Toa." And from there, they developed into this whole arc of you have to collect all the masks. And that was their like big selling point at the time. Because, you know, Pokemon had come out a few years prior, and there was the whole gotta collect them all-a-thon thing that was huge in every aspect of like every sellable, marketable product at that time.
Yeah. And then, like, for me, as a child, I was looking at them like, oh, they have to collect the 6 things, or the 7 things. Okay, that's just like video game. That's just like Paper Mario, just like Zelda, where you have to go and collect these McGruffins.
Yeah, you got to collect these magic items that give them their powers. Like, each of them was a mask, and the masks had different abilities. Like, Mask of Protection would create a shield. The Mask of Foresight would let him, like, see into the, like, distances and such. The Mask of Flight would let him levitate, all that stuff. And there was not just the 6 that the Toa came with. All the other people called the Toraga, and at the time they were called the Tohunga, which actually is a lawsuit that I'll get into in just a few minutes. but they were all wearing their own masks. And the Toraga, they were like the leaders, the shamans, and they had their own masks that actually had the abilities that they had. So like some of them had telekinesis, some of them had levitation, and they were like not as powerful as the Toa's masks, but they still had their uses and such. And so they had to collect those as well. And that was the big thing, because like they'd sell these little packs of like 3 or 4 masks inside for like $3, and it was a blind box, so you just grab them, you get like 4 masks that you don't even know what they were. And there was the secret golden masks, which like there was golden and silver of each of the Toa's main masks, because
I believe I've seen the silver one. I believe I might have had one of those, or I got it at like a garage sale.
yeah, like the silver ones represented that they had gotten like most of their masks, but the gold ones were like they collected every single one of their masks for their specific color, because like if it didn't match their color they couldn't put it on. That was the lore. It was just the rule. And so when they put on the masks, once they had all of them, they turned gold, which means that they could switch the mask off and on to whatever they wanted at a whim. And that was like the whole like video game aspect of, oh, you got to collect them all, you got to get every single one and such.
Gotcha.
So going back to that lawsuit, so as I said before, they're all named after like Polynesian words. So like, you know, you got Matanui, you got the Toa, you got the Toraga, and then you had this thing called the Tohunga, which in the Polynesian religions, Tohunga meant like priest, but they had named their like basic people the Tohunga, and that was like not really something you do. You don't name like normal people the name of like a religious leader.
I'd be like running around saying like, oh, well, those little dudes over there, those are the Jesus Christs.
Yeah, it's like that. Or like, oh, that guy over there, that's a rabbi. He's just it's like a rabbit. just call it the rabbit, a rabbi or something. It's like, oh, okay, we eat this thing. It's called a rabbi. Yeah, no. So that because of that, they were sued by like some Polynesian countries, and that caused them to need to rename them. And so in universe they had this thing called like the Great Renaming, where they changed the Tohunga to the Matoran. And from then on in all their like religious scripts and everything, they'd call them the Matoran.
Okay. And the Matoran, these are the little dudes, right? Like the little guys like that are like a 1.5 feet tall compared to the normal Toa, right?
Yeah. These guys, they actually made multiple sets of them. At first, there was the little like plastic ones, which were just like 2 arms, a body piece, 2 legs, a head, and a mask. And they'd sell those at McDonald's. Like they'd sell little like blister packs at like they give out blister packs in Happy Meals of the little Matorans that had just like a disc that they threw, which was like the old disc throwing mechanic. And then from there, they changed them up and like added them to different kits. And they had this cool in-universe thing where it's like the rebirthing day, where every Matoran grew from that basic posture into like this more articulated, adult-like being that had like actual arm articulation and leg articulation, and they had like little guns and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like little spikes and hammers and stuff that they used for their games of Koli, which was like a soccer-like game. The most basic game that you can play with Lego. So going back into there, we go back to the... Let's see, there was the Koli matches, there was the... Oh yeah, so we're going back. Now we're going into the whole online game. So at first the like how you got your lore was just like, oh, okay, in the game, in the canisters they had like posters and little like mini comics of the characters doing things, and like in each issue of Lego magazine they attached like an actual, I think it was Dark Horse comic that was an issue.
And so it was for Christmas one year, my mom got me a subscription, like a year subscription to Lego magazine, and I would get home from school and just immediately check my mailbox. If it was in there, I would take because it was a little mini. It was about like half the size of the magazine. I'd take it out. I'd quickly flip through the rest of the Lego magazine and see if there's anything neat, and just throw it in the trash and just read my Bionicle comics because they were so fucking cool.
I know. I have some of them still actually in my storage somewhere. Like
I should
just have a bunch
check and see if I can legally find them on the internet and read them.
Honestly, you might be able to find them on Lego.com. They probably have them in some archive.
Yeah, it's been a decade and a half. Like they probably just have them up.
Like there's a website called like I think it was called Wamalug or something. No, Wamalug was the Washington area Metro Lego group. It
Womalug
was
sounds like a goddamn Rick and Morty joke.
it was called Piron. It's like a catalog of like Lego pieces and stuff, and you can like look up different pieces. And I believe that they have like a catalog of instructions, and some of the instructions had comics in them. And like I'm sure they have like the comics somewhere in their database or something.
Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to find. Enough people liked Bionicles that I could find it if I really looked.
Yeah. So we're going back to this, like that was the only way you can get your lore. Then they created this flash game. It was called the Matanui online game. You played this Matoran named Takua. He was just like this guy who washes up on a shore and has amnesia, doesn't know what's going on. And throughout the game, like you just like explore and like you'd go to like a place and it'd tell you like exposition, show you like this cool like, oh, this is how the planet was created, this is our religion. Then you'd like explore and go like, oh, here's the fireplace. Then you go to like this other guy. He explains to you what happened. Like, oh, we met Toa Tahu, and here's what happened. They show you this cool cutscene. There's like a flash animation cutscene, and then they'd go on, and like it would end at a point. And so it was like a weekly thing where like every week they'd reveal a new chapter to the game, and slowly and surely.
Man, this is when I wish like when I was younger I had more because I didn't start actively using the internet until like 2003 maybe. Like I wish I could have, because I definitely would have been all over the shit. I would have been all over this and Homestar Runner. I really wish I could have been like part of these things. The closest thing is Homestuck, and oh boy, did that end badly. Yikes.
That's it, kids. You just won your daily Tad Mentions Homestuck.
Yep, every episode.
So, yeah, I was really into this game though. Like, I would sit there every week and try to like go continue on, and like it'd save like where you were in the cookies, so you wouldn't have to replay from the very beginning just to get back to where you were. And that was the cool part, because like back in like the early 2000s when I was like a kid, and I was still like, whoa, this is so cool. Like I would just be like, wow, it knows where I was. I could totally do this continuously. And there were all these cool cutscenes. There were these cool little mini games you do, and it would slowly like unravel the story of Bionicle, which actually is a portmanteau of the terms biological and chronicle, which is kind of weird.
Motherfucker, is that why they're called Bion? Ooh. See, okay, I. See, God damn it! Now it makes sense. Cause I'm thinking, okay, bio means life. Onicle, like mechanical life. God damn it! It is the year 2018. It took me this long to actually think about why they're called Bionicles.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know that till about like 2009 or 10 when like
I hate this.
And you know, as I'm bored, I just go on the internet, go on a wiki, and like click, and now I'm on the Bionicle wiki.
I should do that. When I was little, what I used to do when I was bored is I would go on like the Mario wiki and just read every single article for Shy Guys. I should have done that for Bionicle stuff. Think of how much more useful information I would have about very specific brand of Lego products.
Well, that's the thing. Bionicle had the best lore at the time, and it was like the coolest thing for like, you know, back in the day, kids had like comic books. They had like Superman or Batman or whatever, like Iron Man. Nowadays, then like by my age, we had Bionicle. That was the deepest lore. That was the coolest thing that just appeared out of nowhere because Lego was like, we need a story for this toys. And then it just grew into this huge, expansive world.
Because it wasn't just the play pieces. They had all this other stuff going on. They had the really, really cool commercials because it was early 2000s. If you saw a 3D animated thing on TV, it usually looked like shit.
Yeah,
or
like,
it's
like Monster by Mistake or some bullshit.
Yeah, it looked like some hot trash. It looked like fucking Jimmy Neutron. So when I'm looking at the screen and I hear a very specific song from the early 2000s, and I see some like actually cool looking, like, whoa, this looks like an actual movie. It's got all these cool robots and shit. It sticks out in your mind, especially because they played it so goddamn often.
Yeah, and it was specifically, I remember one commercial that stuck out in my mind. It was for like the 4th or 5th series of Bionicle, and it was for the Toa Inika, and it played All American Rejects, Move Along, and it would just show these guys like punching each other and shoot lasers at each other, and it was the most badass commercial. And I remember seeing a post that was like, the Beatles discography is garbage because Beatles was never in a Bionicle commercial, but All American Rejects was.
Bam. Anyway, so where were we in the deepest lore here?
Okay, so back we're on Matanui online game. So we're Takua. We're going around saving all the villages and like helping people with their Toa problems and their Rahi problems. Rahi are the monsters of the island. They're literally just like Lego Technic monsters, animals or tigers and stuff. And
Yeah, I remember them. They always looked pretty cool to me because I think there was a crocodile one that I really liked. Was it a crocodile or like a lizard?
and there was like there was a crocodile lizard. But they were like they also everyone had masks. The whole thing was that everybody had a mask that was attached to them at some point, some part of their body, and the Rahi had these infected masks, and no one understood why they were infected until the Toa came by and they found out that it was this evil guy named Makuta, who in their religion is the brother of their creation god Matanui, who the island is named after. And so the Toa go on this quest to find all the masks. They get all their masks. Then Takua's going around. He's the chronicler. That's where everyone's like, oh, it's Bionic Chronicle. And so he's the chronicler. Chronicler. Ugh, that's a big word. And he's taking notes of all these things. Like he's recording like, oh, this is how the green guys were saved, and this is how this stuff has happened. And it culminates to this point where the Toa all meet up at the central area on the island, and they're gonna go underground to find and fight Makuta.
And so before this point, were the Toa just kind of in their own areas, or were they already formed up to the super cool Bionicle fight team?
At first, they were actually in their own areas, and there's like actual lore between like Tahu, the red one, and Kopaka, the white one, that they like clashed a lot, and they were all just really hated each other because, you know, fire and ice, that whole thing. And Kopaka was, like I said, the Sasuke. He was the, I'll never join you. I'm on my own. And he was the lone soldier who goes off on his own. And Toa Tahu was the leader like guy. He was the most charismatic, and everyone followed him after a while. But at first they were all just scattered about looking for their masks. Then they finally get all their masks and they meet up and they're like, okay, we need to fight Makuta together. We have to do this. We can only do this together because power of friendship and all that.
And how did they find out that Makuta was like the bad guy?
It was actually explained in the game because like there was some Rahi that had infected masks, and I think it was Kopaka who was looking around in the ice area, and he found one, and he was just like, these masks keep showing up. What's going on? Then he asked their elder, their Toraga, and he goes, oh yeah, and back in the day we had this monster called Makuta, who was this evil creature who wanted to destroy everybody. And he was Matanui's brother, and so he spread that knowledge spread around by the village chiefs, and they all told their respective Toa, and then those Toa all were like, okay, if we want to defeat this guy, we have to team up. We can't do this on our own.
And Matanui is like the great light god of like life and stuff for all these tribes and everything.
Yeah, they all see him as a life god, which is actually ironic. I'll explain that later. But he's what they named the island after, and he's essentially their creation god. He created the island, he created everything, and he created all life. And then Makuta infected it all with like his malice and shit, and made everything evil, I guess.
Gotcha. So they all get together and they're gonna go fuck this dude up.
Yeah, and so then there's this cool fighting minigame where like you're like in this like turn-based RPG with like these different Matoran from different villages, and they're all fighting Rahi and shit.
Oh, that's cool as fuck.
Yeah, I know, it was really cool because like if you look it up on YouTube, you'll see like these cool like little things where like it was just a turn-based fighting game, like RPG game, where like the Matoran would like use their special abilities, like they'd use the soccer balls or like they'd use their water magic and shit, and they'd like kill the Rahi and they'd defend the area where the Toa went. It's because when they went underground, the Rahi would come and converge and try to kill the Toa before they could reach Makuta. And so like in between each battle, Takua would like go unconscious and have these like visions of what the Toa were experiencing until they finally reach this like hidden chamber, and they're like, Takua, the Rahi are dispersing, you need to go down there and chronicle this. So he runs down under there, sees the Toa, they reach the chamber, and there's like all 6 Toa are just standing there. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like this cutscene just blew my mind when I was a child. But even now, I watched it like 4 times in the past like year and a half, and it's just so badass what happens. I'll try to give it justice by telling you what happens, but essentially, the Toa face this like swirling vortex of parts and pieces that are just like evil, and like you could tell it's evil because it's making like evil sounds.
It's making like whoosh, swoosh, swoosh, wow, swoosh sound. And it's like all green and black, right?
Yeah, it's all green and black, like infected shit. And so then this little Matoran walks out, one of the little people. And he's just like, I am Makuta. And they're like, you're just a dude. And he's like, that's right. I have taken the form of that which you must protect, the Matoran. And they're like, you can't fool us. You're an evil monster guy. That's not what you look like. And he's just like, really? You say that? Well, then if you must, we will fight you. And then he just like explodes. And all these parts just come out from behind him and like follow the mask around, the infected mask. And it just like starts beating the shit out of them all until they all start teaming up and using their powers to defeat him. And slowly and surely, like the Captain Planet thing where they all shoot their lasers at him at the same time to hold him down until he explodes. And he goes like, I will be, he says this quote, and it's really cool how they just like wrote it in and made it sound like it was like he would return. Let me see if I can find a quote of it, actually.
So it's like typical kind of almost shonen style.
Yeah.
Where everyone teams up, the fire and the ice guy put their differences aside. Everyone starts working together. The life and the, because it was the red, the white, the brown, the blue, and the green, right?
Black and green.
What was green?
Green was like, his ability was that he could fly. I think no, he could glide. He was like the jungle area.
Okay.
So like he could like control like organic material, I guess.
And what was the black one?
The black one was underground. He was a digger. He could control like rocks and stuff. Because the brown one was sand. Yeah, the brown one was sand. He could control like the dirt and stuff. He was also really, really fast. His mask was the mask of speed.
Yeah, so everyone puts all the differences aside, they work together, and then they defeat the big bad guy. And
what's really cool is that they switch their masks a lot during the fight, and like you can see them like switching between the different masks that are each other's masks, like their main masks.
Oh, because they're really cool connected now, and they've all got all their masks. They can swap together freely because they're working together in tandem so well.
Yeah, and so when they defeat him, Makuta says, "You cannot destroy me, for I am nothing." And then he just like explodes, and all the Toa are like, "What?" And they all get like teleported away, and it's like, "What's going on?" And then Takua, who watched it all, was just like, "What?" And then he gets pulled, like dropped in a trapdoor and falls to the ground. And this is like the ending of the first game. There was this cool cutscene where like it goes to like, credits. Oh, everybody's celebrating, yeah. And Takua's just underground, and he sees this pod. It looks like a lotus pod, like it's just a bunch of eggs or something in it. He's like, "What's this?" And he looks inside of it, and these two bug eyes glow. And it's the most like when I was young, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, holy shit, that thing's gonna kill him. And he just runs, and like slowly each of the pods just start bursting, and like things just start scuttling out and like scuttling towards him. And he's running and running and running. And there's this useless item that you get at the beginning of the game, which is like this hammerhead, but it's gold, and it doesn't do anything throughout the entire game. And then right here, there's this like gold orb with like a missing piece to it, and he starts pulling out shit from his backpack, like a light stone, a flute, some other thing. He just starts throwing them out, and then he gets the gold like hammer device, shoves it in there, an orb envelops him, and these guys like are right around him, and he gets launched out of the underground area, reappears right where you started the game, like on the beach where you woke up without your memories.
Nice. So that's the ending of the first game.
Yeah, it's the ending of the first Matanui online game, which was like the first like each episodic thing that they did. And that one was available for a bit, and they took it down. But there are places that you can download it because it's a free game. You can download it. It's a Flash game. It's really fun. It's got really good cutscenes. It's got really, really good music for a Flash game. And
made in 2001.
Yeah, made in 2001 too. And so it just got really big, and everyone was just like, wow, this is lore. Like, what's going on? What are these things? And that's when they just started going, we hit gold. Everyone loves this. The story is so intense. Everyone's losing their goddamn minds over just how intense this like story is. And that's just the first series. There's like 10 others after this.
So that was the end of the first series of the Bionicle, because it was the first chapter in the story.
Yeah, like I'd say I chalk it up to like different chapters where like every chapter they'd release 6 new guys, and they were all of the 6 main colors: red, white, blue, green, black, and brown. And each of them, had like elemental powers like that, but most of the time they were controlled by some kind of mask or mask-like device. So the second series was Bohrok, which were like the bug guys that you saw at the end of the first game, and they're these like swarming insects that just run around and they chase the Matorns and the Toa around. They have these.
Now, was
like,
it this one? Was it series 2 that got the movie? Because I know there were several movies.
There were 3 that I know of. No, there are 4 that I know of, and
Because there's the Mask of Light was the big one. I think that was the first one, the really big one.
That's actually like series 4 or 5.
Okay, so that's deeper down the line. Okay.
Yeah, it's much deeper.
So series 2 was more about these insectoid type of robotic creatures.
Yeah, and like their thing was that like each of their masks, which were called Krana, if they attached to any kind of Matoran or
they
Toa
would take
or
it
anything,
over.
yeah, they would like control them and they'd be controlling them. It was like a parasite. And so there were like different masks, different Krana that meant different things. And my cousin, because like the canisters were clear at the bottom, he'd shake it up and he always wanted to get the leader mask, and he always got them. And he like shake it up and look through like 50 different canisters just to find the squad leader one. And he had all 6 with squad leader. And the cool thing about their canister was they had this little like hook that would attach to the back, and the Bohrok would like roll up into a little ball, and you could like attach it to the canister and take off the like label, and it would be see-through, and you could see it just like hanging there looking disgusting and creepy.
Oh, that's cool as fuck.
I know, it's really cool little thing.
I love when something, especially with Lego here, because the whole thing about the Lego, like the reason that they're robots is one, it's Legos. You can't make Lego people because it won't work. So you got the robots by necessity. It's like kind of like Silent Hill, where Silent Hill had the fog because they were working around the limitations that they had. Bionicle had these robots. So okay, what works for the robot? You get these robot masks. You can swap the mask, boop, 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 and then they just kind of work everything around there. You know, oh, these guys can hang out. They're supposed to be parasitic. Well, in their box, they can hang there and look like they're menacing and not like because the Bionicles just stood up. Yeah, they would look, I guess, heroic or at least normal in their boxes.
Yeah, and like the top of their canister had these little pegs that you could attach different heads to. And the cool thing was that like the top had a mask, like a face that you could attach a mask to, and you could attach heads to the 6 little holes around it and attach the different like
each one of their different masks. Oh, that's cool.
But for their respective colors. It was really cool, and like I've seen it like displayed. It looks really cool when it's all put together. But again, that costs like a couple $100 to get them all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the Bohrok. They were like the swarming insects, and they had these little dudes who like they were like the Toraga of the Bohrok that followed them around and like led them. Then we get to like they defeat them by taking out the Kranas, and the like body just is an empty shell. And so they took apart the bodies and made them into these like mecha suits that the guys could like fight in.
And so is this still the same 6 Toa from before?
Yeah, the same 6 Toa. They were originally just the regular Toa, and they were still regular ones. After this,
but now they also have fucking cool robot suits to wear on top of it's like fucking Gurren Lagann over here.
Yeah, they start doing that, but then they get rid of that because eventually the Toa, they defeat the Bohrok by getting hit by this magical stuff called protodermis, which was like it was like energon or something, you know, just some the goop that they get on them, and then they like transform into powerful Toa. And this was series 3, the Toa Nuva, which were like they were like the original Toa, but their masks were like mutated a little, and they had like this silver armor all over their body. And it was really cool how they just like took the old pieces and added to them. They added all these proprietary pieces that look special on them, but they use them a lot in like recent Lego sets. Like there are sets that you could find that have at least 1 or 2 Bionicle pieces specifically made for Bionicle at the time.
So that was is that basically the whole chapter of 2 was they get these kind of robot suits become the Toa Nuva, and then chapter 3 kind of starts.
It was chapter 1 was Matanui, the whole like game. Chapter 2 was the Matanui online game 2, which wasn't as like compelling because it wasn't as episodic, but it was still pretty fun. And it went through the whole like Bohrok issue, where like the Bohrok were coming, they were swarming, and then the Toa, that was issue 2. The issue 3 was the Toa got upgraded to the Toa Nuva, which were the silver. Then it was issue 4, which was the Bohrok Call, which were like this like ultra elite Bohrok. There were only 6 of them, and they were like more powerful and like suited up with the protodermis, so they had silver bits on them, and they were fighting the Toa. And eventually the Toa Nuva found these exosuits. They're called the Exo Toa, that were like these 6 suits that were specifically made for them. so that they could fight these two the mother and father Bohrok, which were these big these big bug guys. I forget what they were called. They were like they had specific names for them. They were defeated eventually by the Toa Nuva and the Exo Toa, but like the Exo Toa got destroyed because they were just like too ponderous, so they just like left them and defeated the Bohrok mother and father by themselves. And after that, everything seemed like calm because like, oh, the Bohrok are defeated, Makuta was defeated. What are we gonna do? Oh, let's celebrate. That's when the movie happens. It's the Mask of Light. You see, the main character Takua was the chronicler from the game. So like that's where it like connects everything together. The Bohrok, the character from the online game, the Toa from the game, the story and everything from the game, and Makuta shows up as the main villain. And so the movie takes place here. This is the 5th series, the Rahkshi series, as I like to call it, where Makuta is like, oh, I'm mad because the Toa defeated me, so I'm gonna take these worms from my body and attach them to some Bohrok pieces, and boom, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am, we have Rahkshi. These like super elite monstrous things that are like a part of Makuta that he sends off to like go and kill the Toa. Like they literally have powers that can kill and like inflict poison and shit on the inhabitants. And they're literally part of Makuta, so that he sees everything that they see. They just do everything that he says to do. And they turn into these cool, like, hoverboard dudes. Like, they got these cool staffs, and they just, like, turn into these hoverboard modes. And the movie goes into this thing called the Mask of Light. Like, Takua finds this rock, and he drops it into the lava, and it comes out and surfaces, and it becomes a mask. And Tahu finds it. He's like, I don't know what this mask is. Let's go talk to the leader about it. And the leader's like, it's the Mask of Light. It's not important. None of you can have it. And they're like, oh, shit. Who can use this mask? Turns out Takua is actually a Toa. He puts on the mask, and he goes to fight Makuta because like the Toa have been like infected and they're all fighting against each other and everything. So Takua's like, I will defeat him. He goes underground and fights Makuta, and Makuta's like, you cannot defeat me, Takua, because you are light, and wherever there is light, there is darkness, like me. You know, that fallacy. And Takua's like, you know what? I may not be able to, but let's try to face this argument with a game of Koli, aka Bionicle Soccer.
Okay, this movie's starting to sound less cool than I remember it.
Yeah, the movie was really cheesy, but I mean, like, when you're like in 2005 and 4, when I was like 14, I thought it was the coolest thing. So anyway, Takua's like, let's fight a game of soccer, and he defeats him, and eventually, like, Makuta's like, no, you can't, and, like, Makuta has, like, started the self-destruct sequence of the island, so Takua's like, no, and he jumps on him, drops him into a vat of protodermis, and then they fuse together or some shit, and then together as Makuta, it was like Makuta Nuva or something. He was named like Makuta Nuva because he was Takua and Makuta combined.
Takanova or Takanuva or
yeah,
something.
Takanuva and Makuta, and they like save the Matoran and all the Toraga and all the Toa, and they all go into like this. They all go refugeed onto this new island that was not disclosed the name of. And so from there, sorry, Claire was telling me to tell you guys about a special little thing that she had. So around this time, yeah, like it was around this time, they had like, you know, the Rahkshi and stuff. Claire, my girlfriend, my fiance, she decided that she wanted to make a little movie with Bionicle. And so they take little Bionicle dudes and like record themselves. Yeah, they're tied them to string and they like, they just drag them around and record themselves, dragging the Bionicles around in the dirt.
Yep. During one scene, they were like, I need to go find the mask. And he looks over and it cuts to the mask. And when it cuts back, he has the mask on. I was 5.
Yeah. Yeah, like, see, and that's what the cool thing about Bionicle, like, you didn't have to follow the story that was given to you. That was just, like, an icing on the cake. You could do whatever you wanted with these plastic toys that you could take apart, attach onto different guys, and have, like, a dude that has 3 torsos and 4 limbs and stuff.
Yeah, because that's what I did. What me and my little brother did was that we took the ice and the sand guy. What we did is we made, I think we called him Tundra. We took them and we combined them and we gave him like, because the rock guy had the claws, right?
Yeah, the rock guy, the black guy had the claws.
Yeah, so we took him And we took the ice one, we gave him the shield, and like took the shield and put it on so he could punch with one shield, and the other one he had like just a normal fist so he could block it and then do all that at the same time, and like could climb walls with the shield arm and shit. And he would just like mix and match pieces. It looked like an abomination, but we could still do that. I didn't have to know about the deepest lore of Toa Nuva and all that stuff. It's still just normal toys. You know, you can still do everything you want.
Yeah, and that's why Bionicle was so big. Was because with this whole like deep lore that I'm explaining right now, you could do fun little stories like what Claire did, where you just like drag him around. Oh, he has a mask. Oh, drag him around. Oh, he's gonna fight this dude. Oh, he's gonna fight Spider-Man or Link or the freaking Barbie. I don't care.
It's kind of like Dragon Ball Z almost, where Dragon Ball Z, when I was little and I watched that, I didn't follow. I didn't even know that Cell Juniors existed. I thought that was something in the Budokai games. I legitimately did not know Cell Juniors ever happened because I missed those episodes. But it didn't matter. Like, it didn't really matter that much. I can watch Dragon Ball Z and I get the gist of it, and that's all you need.
Yeah, like, that's why with this whole deep lore thing, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Because it was made by some guy, like, it was made by, like, one or two guys in some like Lego basement somewhere. They're just like, we need a story to go with this. It doesn't have to be coherent because the kids are gonna play their own story. But the older teens, like teens and stuff, are gonna like really delve into this. Like me, who got really into this story.
So back to the story. So after the canonical Claire saga, what happens after that?
Canonical Claire saga, yeah. So we end up at the like everyone's like refugees on this new island that no one really talks about it. The Toraga are like, let me tell you a story of back when I was a Toa. And they're just like, great, thanks, Vakama, we don't care. But he goes on anyway. And so now we're in a flashback. And this is where series like 6 happens. We go into back in time, back before Matanui, on this place called Metru Nui, which is like high-tech, super awesome robot land.
And it was like inside of Matanui, the island, right?
It wasn't inside. It was like on an island. It was on a separate island, but like it was pretty much inside because it was like a dome city. Yeah, and this is where things start to get a little bit unclear because they were just kind of like going in directions and doing stuff, and they were just like experimenting with different genres. Like in this one, they were like, oh, high tech city where all the Matoran are like they create things that like are literally other Lego Bionicle pieces that create other things and do stuff. As 3PO said in episode 2. Yeah, as 3PO said in episode 2, machines making machines. My word. Yeah, and so like it goes into this whole like, oh, they're like a utopia, and there's this one Toraga, his name is Dume or Doom, Dume, and he's like the grand leader of the entire island, and everybody trusts him, everybody loves him. Turns out he was actually infected by Makuta. So Makuta kills this guy, throttles him to death, and then goes, I need to replace him. I know, I'll be him. And he becomes the dude. He becomes Dume. And from there, he has this like servant, like Rahkshi, that just follows him around. It's like his eyes and ears and goes around and does stuff for him. And they had this like set that was like the Rahkshi, I forget what his name was, but it was like a bird, and it would carry him around in like this little baby carrier. Because he was the size of a Toraga. He was like really tiny baby guy.
I think I remember this from one of the commercials where there was like something carrying this little dude. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it was Makuta. And so the Matoran at the time, who were the Toraga in the original series, they like encountered this magic. They pretty much got like infected by Protodermis or something, and they became Toa themselves. And then Makuta, being the evil monster he is, decides to control everybody, put them all to sleep in the Colosseum, bring the Toa together, and I'm like, guess what? You guys lose. Puts them all into like jail and just goes, haha, I control everything. And they like work together. They start getting their masks because they have masks too, like back then. And they start just like they group together. They go up to defeat Makuta and such. There's actually a funny comic of like his name was Toa Onewa. He was the brown Bionicle of this era. And he talks to this like one other Matoran dude, and he's just like, what if the Earth revolves around the sun? And then the little Matoran guy's like, what if your wife's ass revolves around my dick?
That was a bold choice by Bionicle.
Yeah, it was like some edit for some comic with the Toa Metru. And it was just the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Like I saw it on like 4chan or somewhere. It was some stupid edit. But that's when that era happened, and so they come out, they defeat Makuta, and then like using their power, they go up to the what's it? They go up. They take these boats down a river. Essentially, they go up into the top of the ocean, and they find this island called Matanui. And that's the original island. That was like the organic island. They're like, we should move all of our people here because they're infected and we need to bring them back so we can bring them back to life. So they go back down, and it turns out in the 5 minutes that they were gone, everything goes to shit again. Because Makuta has these two guys. It was I think it was Sidorak and Rudaka. They were like these two monstrous dudes. They're like Rahkshi, but they were like attached to Makuta, and there was a male one and a female one. And the only reason I know that is because the female one had Rahkshi heads for tits. I'm not even joking.
Wait,
you can look this up.
I vaguely remember this.
So there was that, and from there, like they get infected with the virus, the AIDS virus or whatever you want to call it, and they turn into these monsters. Also known as they were pretty much just like Bionicles, but they looked like animals, like apes, at this point.
So they were like, what do you mean that they looked like apes? Did they just have like
they were hunched over and they like walked on all fours and they were like animalistic and stuff. And this is the third movie. The second movie was actually Metru Nui and like that whole saga. The third movie is this one. It's called like the Web of Shadows, where these like spider things called the Visorak, which I really loved. They like bit them and infected them and turned them into like four-legged primal monsters like looking dudes.
Uh-huh.
And from there, they have to find this guy. I forget his name. He was like this gold dude with one eye. And he, actually, I have it right here. There was no darkness, chamber of light. This is all just like, extra fluff that they added in here and there about like, oh, the Toa went here and the Toa did this.
Yeah, because we're kind of flying past. Like, there's a lot more that we're just kind of skipping over, just because that's not really necessary to know. It's just it's the stuff that it's like the people who like you can play a Kirby game without knowing the deep lore, but it's there if you're looking.
Yeah,
there's miles of lore.
Yeah, this is just like the big cliff notes of what the story was, the different series. So yeah, there was Sidorak and Rudaka, and so they infect the Toa Metru. They have to look for, where is it? Sidorak has Zavon darkness. Rudaka. Sorry, I'm just like reading these cliff notes that I've written down. Here it is. Kitongu, that was his name. Kitongu was like this golden monstrous dude who had he was like a shaman and he had magical powers and he could turn them back to normal. But the only way to get them to turn them back to normal is to become his friend. Because otherwise he wouldn't listen because he's a monster. And so they bring him together.
The monster's friend?
They just have fun with him, power, friendship, and all that stuff.
They just take him out for ice cream.
Yeah, and so they take him to the Coliseum to fight the bad guys. Because, he's this big hulking monster who has a heart of gold. He was Android 15. Or the
so he's like Android 16, where he was designed to be like big evil. But I could hear the sound of the birds chirping.
Yeah, he was literally Android 16. And so they have him fight, he defeats them, he turns them back to what they were, and then using their Toa powers, they transfer all the Matoran from Metru Nui onto Matanui, and that's when, we get to where we started off in the first series. And because they used their Toa powers to do that, they lost all their powers and became the Toraga. And that's how they became the chiefs of their villages.
Okay, so after So it was after the Metru Nui was like the prequel stuff for the Metru Nui was way back, right? And then forward and then we get up to the first series and okay.
And then we get the first Bionicle online game. Then we get the second one, get the Bohrok, Rahkshi, all that stuff. Just rewind a couple minutes, maybe like half an hour ago, and you'll get it all. So now we're back here. Now we go to this magical place called Voya Nui, which was like it's just like underground and stuff. And this is where there was like the original Matoran from the online game. There was Jaller, who was originally named Jala, but they had to change that because that was a bad name or something. There was I forget these guys' names. They were so different. I only remember the original. There it is. Jaller, Hali, Kongu, Huki, Nuparu, and Matoro. They were like the 6 main different elemental Matoran that you met in the Matanui online game. And they go to this place called Voya Nui, and they become Toa themselves. They become the Toa Inika, which is the Bionicle commercial with All American Rejects.
I'm going to link that in the description because I did not believe it when I first saw it.
So they become the Toa Inika, and they have to fight these guys called the Piraka. And this is where they get like ball shooting guns. That was their gimmick at the time. And it was just like, oh, the place is covered in darkness. They gotta free it from the darkness. And then, yay, we freed it from the darkness. And then they're like, oh, hey, there's underwater people too. This place is connected. This place in the air is connected. So anyway, we go underwater, and this is where they get like really cool, like mutated fish-like appendages and stuff, and like tentacles and such. And there was this one mantis-like dude. I think it was Techadox. I don't remember. No, it wasn't Techadox. He was one of the evil dudes. They were the like underwater Piraka. Like every series after this started getting like the main Toa and then their enemies, which were the same like 6 different color guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the Baraki. And they were just like, oh, underwater. They have these. They get like adaptations to go underwater. They were the Matoran originally, and then they became the Toa Inika. Then they become the Toa Mari, which lets them go underwater. They have these cool like organic fishy bits to attach to them, and from there they save underwater land essentially. That's the big thing.
Yeah, so they save the underwater world from the McGruffin bad guys, the Cell Toys.
Yeah, pretty much. So from there, we go back, and they go back to like this sky area called Karda Nui, and the original Matoran. They're still in their underwater form, so they can't really go into the air and fly, because this is like a place attached to Voya Nui that's like in the air. They're like floating, like the floating islands from Avatar, if you remember that movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that kind of civilization. And so the original Toa from the original series, the good old 6, Tahu, Gali, Pohatu, Kopaka, Liwa, and Onua, all 6 of them they get magical protodermis, and they become fly-in versions of themselves. So now they can all fly in the air.
And go save Flying Land.
Yeah, and they go save Flying Land from that monstrosity known as like Flying Makuta, also known as Fantoka Makuta, which was, they were called the Toa Fantoka. That was the flying versions.
All right. I think from here, did they go to... No, I don't think they go to space.
Actually... So this is where things get a little like weird, because like when they were the Toa Inika, the Matoran that became Toa, they were looking for the Mask of Life, which was like this mask that's supposed to bring everything back to life, because they left Matanui because Matanui was dead, so they're trying to look for the Mask of Life to bring it back to life, and they find the Mask of Life as Ignika, but then it falls underwater, and so they go underwater to try to get it, and that it makes all the monsters. That's what it was. It made all the monsters come out of life because the Mask of Life. And then Makuta gets it and goes into the air, and then they got to get it from there. Finally, they get it. They take it back to Matanui. Everything's happy. They drop the Mask of Life on it, and shit hits the fan. You think things are gonna end happily, huh? No, shit hits the fan. So the Mask of Life lands on Matanui, and Matanui comes to life.
And Matanui, that's the island, right? The island that was in the original, the whole fucking magical island they were on comes to life.
Yeah, the magical island that they live, their creation god that they named their island after, comes back to life with the Mask of Life. And then he gets launched into space for some odd reason that I never really understood why.
Yeah, because the whole of Matanui, Matanui was their god, and he was the island. I was always a little confused on this. So was he just a giant robot laying in the water?
Yeah, like if you watched Moana, like Tafiti, how she was like this being that was like laying down, and then she gets up and she becomes the island.
I never saw Moana, so
Okay, it's pretty much like the island became the person became the island, and they put the mask of life on him, and he came back to life, and he became a person again, and he gets launched into space, and then he magically lands on this weird barren land of like, it was like Mad Max Bionicle, because there were just like gladiatorial fights and these like different tribes that all try to fight each other to get like notoriety and become the biggest place of them all. This is like series 14 or something. I don't even remember at this point, because this is when I was working at Lego, and I just kind of like sold the stuff. I stopped reading into it because it just got kind of out of hand from here. So he gets sent into like this other planet, which is Mad Max. You know, it's all dead and all barren. And he comes to like, oh, I will fight for you guys, because he's Matanui. He's a good guy. He's like lawful good, Mr. Nice Boy.
So he's going on like his space adventures to all these different kind of planets there and helping them out with their issues.
No. He just goes to one planet. It's just that the planet is like barren and he's stuck there. And like he's like the lawful good paladin who's walking around because his brother's the chaotic evil monstrous necromancer.
And his brother his brother's Makuta, right? The evil guy.
Yeah, Makuta is his brother. Like that, because light versus darkness, that kind of duality. And so he's helping these gladiatorial fights. And he saves the planet or some shit, and it turns out that the planet is actually, and here's the kicker, the planet is called
Makuta.
No, it's called Spherus Magna. And if you were a part of this Bionicle lore, you would know Spherus Magna is the planet that the whole of Bionicle happens on.
So wait. Oh, so, okay, so he went into space, or he thought he went into space this other planet, but no, he was still at home. He was still on the same home planet as Matanui was originally on.
Yeah, it's literally just Planet of the Apes.
He just came back, didn't recognize anything.
Yeah, and then everything went to shit. And then he saves the world, and then he creates the world again. And it's just this cyclical cycle nonsense, I think. I think that's how it ended. Honestly, it wasn't really that clear, because it just kind of like ended abruptly, because Lego was like, we've done this forever, and we're running out of ideas, so let's just...
So, was there ever like kind of a showdown between Makuta and... Because I vaguely remember reading something or watching like a kind of breakdown video where there was like a giant robot that Matanui was like inhabiting, and then oh god, what was the bad guy's name? Makuta. Yeah, Makuta was like, hey, I'm gonna fuck your shit up with this giant robot. And like they all had there was like this big epic battle and shit.
Yeah, like he gets this like giant robot he pilots, which is like his spaceship that he landed on. Bara Magna was the planet that he landed on, which was literally like prehistoric Spherus Magna.
Mm-hmm.
And he just lands on this thing, and then you like because the spaceship is like Matanui the island, it has like remnants of older series Bionicles, and what they did was they re-released like a bunch of the original kits, like Toa Tahu, the Rahkshi that was yellow or something, and they released them all, but like as these basic kits, and they were just like, oh, the giant robot inside of it had DNA samples of all the other kits from the other series, and he brought them out to fight Makuta, who was trying to take over Bara Magna.
See, like that's okay though. That's pretty cool. It makes sense in the lore for the robot to have all these other, and it's a good excuse to re-release them. It's a good enough excuse.
Yeah, it's a pretty good excuse because I mean, again, Bionicle was such a big hit. It's what kept Lego from going bankrupt. Without Bionicle, we wouldn't have Lego right now, as well as Star Wars. But that's another story.
So there's a giant robot. He has all these old school dudes coming out to help him, fighting Makuta in like this last final battle, right?
Yeah, that culminates into like the whole the Bionicle. Well, it's like it was this catchphrase that they had. It was like Bionicle has ended, but the stories will continue, if in like your imagination and your mind, because you'll always have these kits, etc., etc. And like the canonical Claire chapter. You just keep going on with your toys. Just keep going with the story. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, because I do remember the very last thing, which was there's the giant robots, and the way that he beat Makuta was he like bashed his head into one of the giant planets and like knocked him the fuck out. He took him and like swung him into a planet, and then he's like, "All right, I give up. All right, I'm done." But so then after this, it was like 2007. Then they were done with Bionicle. Was there? Did they
No,
just
this
decide?
was like 2012, like 2010.
Oh wow! So did they
Yeah,
just
it kept
decide like,
going.
okay, we're about done. Like this is the end of the story, and then they did like, what the fuck was Hero Factory?
Hero Factory was just them using Bionicle pieces to try to come up with a new, compelling story, but it was literally just like, it was just keep shit.
And then
it
I
was just
heard
like,
someone, and this was a random anonymous poster on the internet. Someone mentioned that they're like trying to bring back Bionicles again, or I don't even know if that's true or not.
they rebooted the series recently. Like, I want to say like about 2014, 2015. And they brought back the original Toa and they tried to make it like Bionicle Adventures, where like they're just going around doing the things that they originally did, but they're updated kits and they're cool and they're doing the same thing. And they kind of like that died off, but I think it came back actually. I haven't been up to date with Lego since I don't really partake in Lego. I partake in more adult hobbies like painting plastic toy soldiers. But yeah, like they brought it back in this kind of rebooted kind of effect where they brought back the original story and they kind of redid it, but they tweaked it a little to make it less convoluted.
Yeah, and that I mean that was part of the, and that's something that you see in a lot of things now with this like where you'll have a story going on in the background. The product is first and foremost. You know the whole point of Bionicle is to make these toys, sell the toys. Second, like a close second, is the story that makes it compelling and gives people a reason to give a shit. You see it in a lot of indie games coming out. Like Binding of Isaac had that really, really big where they had all that deepest lore shit where people would be like, oh, well, what's going on with Isaac here? What's blah, blah, blah. You know, if you have a story and things like that to engage someone, people will be more interested in what you're selling, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it's kind of like silly because like in the gaming industry now, the indie sellers are going with like compelling deep lore stories, while like more AAA games are just going, here's microtransactions, here's a game that is multiplayer first, story second, here's Mass Effect Andromeda, we don't care about the story, we just care about profiting. And it's just kind of like this disconnect with what people want and what people have been doing for the past like few decades, really.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a good hour long. I mean, there's so much more to the Bionicle story that makes it a little bit more compelling and interesting. I'm almost certainly going to look around and try to get those comics and read through them again, and hopefully they still kind of stand up to what young me imagined. Because young me, I remember them not being like super duper like Transformers level of just selling toys. I don't remember them being that strict, so I'm gonna read through them again, see if I can like. I definitely want to check out those Flash games too. Those sound cool as fuck.
Oh yeah, I have them saved. If you want me to like upload them to like Mega or something, you can just post the link and people can download them and play them because they're really compelling.
Only if it's Creative Commons now. Wink.
It is because it's Bionicle. That's discontinued. It's free speech at this point.
Maybe, but yeah. So thanks for telling me all about Bionicle. It's actually pretty interesting. I really liked it.
Yeah, like everything has always been that deep. Like the first series is the only thing I really remember because I remember being really into it, but all the series had its moments like that. It was all really deep and compelling. It's just that after a while, again, I worked at Lego. I started getting overexposed to Lego, selling the stuff. Actually, I have a funny story, a quick little story, a little quiche, if you will, of my time at Lego.
Little ending piece.
So I was working a weeknight shift with these two guys. I think their names were like Gerald and Travis or something. I don't remember. But I was the typical kid. I was like 16 at the time, and they were like, in their mid-20s. They were the managerial staff. And so I was in the back getting some stock to bring outside, and all of a sudden, Travis just walks into the doorway and goes, "Someone shit in the Lego store."
Now, in 1/3 of all the jobs I've worked, people have shit in the floor. There seems to be a common theme. Like, all right, tell me. So why did someone shit in the Lego store?
So that's the thing. We never found out. There was just this log, and it wasn't like a baby turd. It was like a log in the back of the store, like back inside the store. You had to go in there to actually get to there. And
see, when you said that he ran to the back room, I thought he just bolted out of the store, leaving you to deal with it. But no, the guy, like, whoever it was, got into the store, snuck into the back room, got swifty, and then just walked out?
No, not like the back room, but like, you know, like there's the front of the store, there's the back of the store, and then there's the door that leads into like the employee only area. Like the back of the store had this big wall with Lego pieces that you could just like take and put them in a bucket and like buy those like free pieces. But like there was just a log back there, like right next to the wall, next to the back wall that leads to the door to the back room. And I just walk out, there's this turret, and it has a little baby footprint. So it was there for a while. A kid comes in, steps on it, and then walks out.
And you know, if a closer inspection, what was that turd? It was Hero Factory. Boom.
But
All right, so I guess we'll just go ahead and do the ending plugs here. I don't think you can top someone taking a shit in the Lego store for no discernible reason. Oh, Jesus. So speaking of shit on the floor, you can find us on Twitter at Let Me Tell You PD, on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play. All the links on the website, which is www.lmtya.com. There's a Discord, there's a Patreon. I think that's about all my plugs. Is there any last thing that you want to add on to the Bionicle deepest lore?
kids don't shit in the Lego store.